So this was anyway one party, and this was the Sridhar, Madhav, Professor Sanyal, and Anantavasudev party. And another party was the Tirtha Maharaj party. There was two main deviant parties. But Tirtha Maharaj didn't really start until the Vasudev program was already starting to unravel, and then he just declared, well, if Anantavasudev is a guru, and Anantavasudev cannot maintain the standard of guru, then that means pretty much anybody can be a guru, so I might as well declare myself to be a guru as well. And that's what he did. And Prabhupada said actually that Tirtha Maharaj, although he was a deviant, he had a good point, a valid point, that no guru had actually been appointed by Bhaktisiddhanta. So Tirtha Maharaj began a lawsuit against the Vasudev party, tried to kick them out of the temples, out of the Gaudiya Matha temples, and this was the infamous Gaudiya Matha lawsuit, where all of the money of the mission began to be spent on lawyers and judges and legal fees and so on and so forth between these two parties. And eventually both of these parties kind of crashed on the beach, and they weren't credible. Tirtha's program became more and more exposed that it was just a money-making scheme. He was giving money to his family and so on. And the Vasudev party was highly discredited. So Sridhar Maharaj had a brilliant idea at that time. He said, we'll have a reform. We'll reform the Gaudiya Matha. And the way we'll reform it is we'll make everybody a guru. We'll just declare everybody who wants to be a guru is now a guru. So he decided to just open the floodgates and make all kinds of gurus, and that's what happened. They had another 100 gurus, and many of them didn't even last a year, and there was some huge scandal. They were having illicit sex with 10 different women, or they were taking intoxication. So many things were going on. So Prabhupada says that in this way Sridhar's plan was that another man comes, another man, another man, and in this way they killed their guru to become guru. Prabhupada used this phrase, kill guru to become guru. So even though there's no real direct evidence that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was poisoned in 1936, Prabhupada does use this term, kill guru. They killed their guru in order to become guru themselves. So they killed him either physically with poison, or they killed him with their philosophy that the guru is now dead and I'm now the living successor to the guru. And this has been, after 1977, the identical philosophy that was preached by the ISKCON false gurus. And of course they consulted with Sridhar Maharaj to come up with this philosophy. We're living, our guru is dead, you have to worship the living person. We're the living persons. Of course, never mind that we're having illicit sex and we're taking intoxication and we're having all these problems. So again, same process. There was all the scandals of ISKCON, which duplicated the scandals of the Gaudiya Matha, the false guru scandals. So this process was repeated. So Prabhupada was warning us, be careful, do not duplicate this history, because in the Gaudiya Matha, the false gurus created scandals and the entire mission was thrown into ill repute, and if you declare false gurus after I leave, you're going to have the same problem. So while we were in India in the early 1970s, we would visit some of the Gaudiya Matha temples with Prabhupada, and we would notice that there were just a couple of old men there. There was hardly any life in the temple. There was some rickety, run-down program. And Prabhupada said that's because they kicked everybody out. They declared some false gurus, and no one wanted to worship these false gurus, and the false gurus just clung on to the properties, and Prabhupada said it was all about control of the assets of the Gaudiya Matha mission. A few people were fighting over control of the building, and they declared themselves the gurus and would somehow or other, by different tricks, put themselves onto the legal papers and own the temple or become the manager of the temple and use the temple. Prabhupada called it a showing the deity business. They would show the deity in the temple, people would put money in the collection plate, and in this way these false gurus would maintain themselves. But Prabhupada said this kind of program has no life, and that's why there's just a couple of old men in these buildings. And not too surprisingly, after 1978, especially when the ISKCON governing body, false gurus, linked themselves with the Gaudiya Matha, they emptied out the temples, and there's just a few people in all of these temples. Just for example, Berkeley, there was 170 devotees living in and around the temple when Prabhupada was here. As soon as he left, there's like maybe 5 people in the temple right now. So these false gurus, they don't want a lot of people. They don't want to preach. They're not trying to convert people. They're just trying to manipulate and control the property And so Hindus will come there and put money in the collection plate, and then these gurus can come in there and get money for their opulent lifestyle. So this was going on. And sometimes people would visit the Gaudiya Matha temples, and they would come back with Gaudiya Matha books, and Prabhupada would be very displeased, and he would say, "Why are you reading these books? Don't you know these people have offended my guru? They've disobeyed my guru. Don't read their books. Their books are bogus. Their books are full of false ideas. They edited the books," and so many things. Prabhupada was not happy with this, and in 1971 also, a bunch of Prabhupada's godbrothers came to visit our temple. We were just starting a new temple in Mayapur, and Prabhupada offered his obeisances. He prostrated himself, and none of the godbrothers prostrated themselves back. They were very angry. They were very upset that he was using the title Prabhupada, and they were envious of him. They were angry and envious, and when they left, Prabhupada said, "Someone should post a guard here because these people will kill me." So right after Prabhupada leaves, immediately the ISKCON governing body, false gurus, declared that these godbrothers were our best friends. The people Prabhupada says want to kill me, they're all of a sudden our best friends. They're ISKCON's best advisors. So they were like-minded. The leaders of ISKCON, while Prabhupada was here, they were plotting and hatching some scheme with these Gaudiya Matha people to take over ISKCON. And so as soon as Prabhupada would leave, they would join together. Because while Prabhupada was here on the planet, the Gaudiya Matha people had no help for him. They didn't help him at all. Sridhar Maharaja was nowhere to be found. Narayana Maharaja was nowhere to be found. Why weren't these people helping Prabhupada while he was here? As soon as he leaves, all of a sudden they're his best friends, and Prabhupada was being poisoned to death. He was being murdered. So if these people had been helping Prabhupada, he would not have been poisoned to death, because they would have been looking after his welfare and monitoring things for him, and he would have had some trusted people that he could confide in. But he had nobody to confide in, especially none of these godbrothers. They weren't there to help him, and that is why the poisoning plot was successful. Not only that, but as soon as Prabhupada was poisoned and murdered and killed, right away all of the Gaudiya Matha people became very friendly with the poisoners and began to glorify the poisoners as gurus and exalted souls and all the rest of it. So they didn't help Prabhupada on the one hand, and they helped the bad guys. They helped the takeover to